Thanks so much for logging on to WSPA.com, and we thank you for checking out our special report, Remembering D-Day 70 Years Later. I'm sitting down here with Sandra Renrick. She was one of the producers on the project, and my name is Laura Thomas. I'm an anchor and reporter here at 7 on Your Side. We thought it was important to take a look behind the scenes at sort of the reason why we thought it was important to do this special, and to talk a little bit about how this all started. If you want to start by talking to me a little bit about that.
I remember it started several months ago when you did a story with this woman out of Colombia who wanted to take D-Day veterans back to Normandy. And I remember seeing that story and thinking, wow, it's the 70th anniversary. We need to do something. We really need to do something before these stories are lost, and especially the local stories. And I remember walking over to your desk and saying to you, Laura, I have an idea. And you gave me this look like, oh boy.
We know in the newsroom when Sandra has an idea, we all pay attention to it because you always have the best ideas. But from that point on, we decided this is a passion of ours to make sure that we record these stories of these veterans, like you say, before they're gone forever, and especially the 70th anniversary. What a big milestone for this day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we approached the management at Channel 7 about doing this project, they were fully behind it. They wanted us to do it. And so it became a labor of love for everyone who was involved with this project. Absolutely a labor of love. And the stories from the veterans are just amazing. Absolutely amazing. I don't think some of the veterans, when they were telling their stories, they were telling them like they were ordinary occurrences, and they're not. These are American heroes, and the actions that they performed on the battlefield and behind the scenes is just amazing.
It is. I mean, this generation of folks, I mean, they're not going to brag about what they did, and a lot of times they don't think of their acts as acts of heroism, but they are. And I think that was one of the things that stood out to me. I was honored to go along with one of our photographers, Tom Colonis, on an honor flight to DC. It was actually the third honor flight that I had been on, but the first with the Upstate Honor Flight organization, and we went with 45 World War II veterans and 45 Korean veterans, and so many of these men and women had never seen that memorial built in their honor, and they were just overcome with emotion to be able to see that, and that somebody cares, that they risked their lives, and in many occasions people gave their lives for our country, and they're still, I think, a little bit shocked to be honored for something that they did.
They are so humble, and this is the generation that saved America. There's no argument about it. There's no debate about it. These men and women saved America. Hitler wanted to take over America. There was just to take over the world, not just America. And the fact that they stopped this tyranny from happening is unbelievable.
You mentioned Hitler. We thought it was important to also look in the upstate and see if we could find folks who lived through those times. And you stumbled across some Holocaust survivors who live in Spartanburg, and talk about finding them. I mean,
wow.
Their stories are just incredible. I mean,
their stories are the stories that you will never forget. I always say that when working in the newsroom, there's some stories that you pick and there's some stories that pick you. And I feel like this whole project was about that, and coming across these Holocaust survivors and them sharing their stories, and the fact that they made an oath that whenever they were asked to tell their stories, they would tell their stories. And to see someone who has a number tattooed on their arm, and to learn that that A stands for Auschwitz, you'll never forget it.
You never forget it. And I remember looking across from them when we did the interview with them, sitting down with them and just seeing, I mean, you can still see the pain in their faces of what they went through. You mentioned that their son said that they even had nightmares days after, just recalling those memories of what they went through.
Absolutely. And the fact that they did this and not only did this for us, but they've told their stories to others. But to understand that when they were in the concentration camp and people were asking, where are the babies? Where are the grandmothers and grandfathers? And to learn that they went up in smoke. And we know what that smoke meant, that their ancestors just evaporated in the smoke. And how do you describe that kind of atrocity that took place? There are no words for it.
There are not, and Shandor mentioned as well that his mother was killed immediately at the concentration camp because they just didn't have prisoner clothes in her size. I mean, how can you say that these things didn't happen when obviously these people lived through this? I mean, how can he fake his mother's death? How can she tattoo her arm? I mean, it's stuff that you can't deny after talking with these people.
Absolutely.
But that was one of the reasons we wanted to make sure we include sort of the reason why these soldiers fought and some of the horrors that they came across in these battles. We thought it was important to show that side of it as well. But including them, including all these stories from World War II, we hope that you'll be able to check these out and listen to these stories and hopefully thank them for their service as well. That's what this is all about, is if in some small way that we can show a little bit of appreciation to these folks. They risk their lives for us, and how remiss would we be if we didn't take a time, especially at this opportunity of the 70th anniversary, to sit down and thank them for their service.
Absolutely, and I think Cecil Buchanan, when he was speaking about that without the sacrifices of this generation, we could be saluting a German flag, a Japanese flag. It makes you think.
And like we say in the story, we call them the greatest generation for a reason. I mean, they really
are the greatest generation.
They really are.
The greatest
They really
generation.
are. So, well, thanks for sitting down with us, and thanks for joining us here at WSPA.com. We thought it was important to give you a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look at the journey of how we put this all together, and how we hope that you can also watch this report online as we remember D-Day 70 years later. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.